Hey there, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Soulful Sunday. Hope you had a fantastic week. Hope again you are staying safe, happy, and healthy. So, during the last week, did you take some time? Did you think about the people who are in your life? Did you identify anyone, or maybe multiple people, who are toxic and negative and really who just need to step off? So if you did, this week we are going to discuss what you can do and how you can get people like that out of your life. So I realized that some of these negative people are going to be really close to you. Some of you, it might be your parent, it might be your spouse even, it might be your significant other. If it is, these are the steps that you can take to start minimizing the amount of negativity that splashes back on you. The spreader, that particular someone who just loves to spread the negativity around, who really enjoys just spewing it and, is hoping that you'll drop down to their level and settle into that negative mindset. So what can you do to minimize, as I call it, the splashback of that? Quite frankly, the spreader just wants to be heard. That's all they're looking for. So the best thing you can do is do not engage with that person. Don't agree with them. Don't say a word. Try and divert the subject as best you can, as quick as you can, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for you to join them on that level. That's what makes them feel good. They love that, constant talk of maybe, someone else or a situation. They just love to talk it over, and they really love to feel your vibe just deplete. These are the people that you need to be honest with and let them know that they are being extremely negative and that it is affecting you in a really toxic way. Most likely, these people are not going to want to hear this because they want to be heard, basically, right? They don't care who listens, they just want to be heard. So in this situation, it's about setting boundaries, and I know that's difficult, and I'm going to talk about how to set boundaries in the next video. So the next person I mentioned was the critic, the person who, no matter what you do, no matter how good it is, they will constantly criticize you. Here's what you can do to help counteract their negative energy. When that critic begins to criticize something you've done, remember, don't take it personally. This person sees everything in life as an opportunity to criticize something. So, they may look at you and say, that shirt doesn't look good on you, that whatever, why did you do that? That's ridiculous. You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that. Don't take it personally, because you know damn well they're going off and they're doing it to the next person as well. They're not doing it to just you. It's not something that you have done that has caused them to act this way and to criticize you. Remember as well that negative criticism can also help you grow if it has legs. So what I mean by that is, if this person's just picking apart everything you do, obviously that is not helpful critiquing. But if they look at a project you've done or something, a decision you've made, and say, have you thought about looking at it from this way? Have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing that? People who actually offer you some guidance with the criticism, that's valuable and helpful. But someone who just sits there and says, you suck, that's not helpful. What good is that going to do? So remember, ignore the false criticism. For example, the individual in our life that would look at my wife no matter what, on days when she's feeling really good about herself, this person would say, God, you look like shit. What were they doing that for? Well, because they wanted to bring her down and bring her to their level. So ignore the false criticism. When someone says something to me that comes from a place of negativity, if they just look at me and say, my God, lately, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. I look at them and I say, what? I understand where you're coming from, but that's not my belief system. I don't subscribe to that belief system. I don't believe that the world is shit, that it's gone to hell in a handbasket, that it's not going to get any better. I just look at them and say, I don't subscribe to that belief system. And then drop it. Leave it there. Don't say any more about that. So what you've done is you've said, I understand where you're coming from, but that doesn't work for me. You're not engaging in that negative talk. The next person that we talked about, The time waster. You know, that person who will just constantly talk about something that perhaps you've talked about time and time again, and you're really just not getting anywhere with it. Here are the things that you can do. Oddly enough, these individuals oftentimes can appear in your workplace. They can be your co-workers. So what you can do to stop them from wasting your time is to have an agenda for a meeting. Just tell them, you know, I'm really busy right now, but if we can set a time where we can have a quick meeting and discuss what you're thinking about, then absolutely we can do that. But right now, I am busy. I have this project I need to finish. I'm working on this, that, or the other. Don't go as often and don't stay as long. So, for example, you might have a family member who is one of these toxic people, who is a chronic time waster. It might even be one of your friends. In that case, as I said, don't go as often and don't stay as long. Tell them the moment that you arrive or prior to seeing them. Say, listen, I know we're getting together on Tuesday for coffee. I only have a couple hours, so we're going to have to keep it to that. Block off an amount of time that you know you can afford to lose. If you can't, then tell them, I just don't have the time right now. I'm sorry. I can't see you on Tuesday. I can't see you for coffee, whatever the case may be. And when you're with that person, if they start to delve back down or back into that subject that they constantly talk about, or maybe they want to sit and they just want to gossip, you can say, you know what? I gotta bolt. I gotta go. Treat it like a bad date. If you know that when you talk to this person on the phone or when you're in person with them, you know, when you sit down and you have coffee with them, if that's less controllable for you, you can just say to them, I don't have time this week to get together for coffee or next week, but if you fire me off an email, fire me off a text, I'm here and I can respond. That way you can respond in your own time. Another really great way to negate some of this person's toxic behavior is to meet with them in a group. Again, this might be easier, you know, if it's a coworker or whatever, even if it's a family member other than your spouse. You can say, you know, why don't the four of us get together, go out for coffee, do this, do that, do the other. Then you're not stuck one-on-one with this person where they're constantly, you know, just wanting to drag you down. That one who is the green-eyed monster, who no matter what you do, no matter what you accomplish, they are always jealous of you. How can you negate that behavior? This one's a little more tricky because you don't want to minimize your accomplishments. You don't want to minimize your worth. You don't want to minimize anything about you. So the best thing that I suggest is to not acknowledge their jealousy. Just ignore it. Don't allow them to go there. If you don't allow them to go there and talk down of you, or even talk down about themselves and say, you know, I wish I could do that, but I just can't. I'm not as good. You kind of pull some of their power away. Don't let their jealousy minimize your accomplishments. The victim, that person who, no matter what the situation is, always makes themselves out to be the victim when you know damn well they're not. What can you do to negate and avoid some of the toxicity that's going to fly off of them? I think in this case especially, it's important to understand why they behave this way. Be aware of the things that they do and don't do. The victim will never take responsibility for their actions. It's never their fault. Be aware of that if you come at them with something, they're going to worm around it and they're going to say, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. Well, I did that because. They're going to slough it off and they're just not going to take responsibility. They're going to turn it back around and point it at you. And you don't want to go there with them because that only perpetuates and allows them to further play the victim. Also understand that for these people, their life is stagnant. It's not going up. It's just staying the same all across the board. And that's because they believe they're powerless, that there's nothing they can do. There's really no sense in looking at them and saying, listen, you're not powerless. You're not always the victim. You're not this, you're not that. Because they will always flip it around and play it right back around that they are the victim. Oh, and the victim, my goodness, one of the things that they will always do is hold a grudge. They will bring up shit that happened from 15 years ago and say, listen, you remember when we were kids and you did this, that, or the other? Well, it's still affecting me, and I'm still dealing with the whatever from that. They will always, always, always hold a grudge. There is no moving forward with these people. The victim is very easily riled up. They will easily get into an argument with people. With the victim, most times their go-to emotion is anger. They are really quick to start an argument. As I mentioned, it's never their fault. There's never a positive outcome with these people. It is constantly your fault and not theirs. So keep in mind, as I said, it's never their fault. They are always feeling sorry for themselves, and they always believe that there's something missing in their life. There's nothing you can say or do to change that for them. Those people who don't care, those people who just don't give a damn about anything or anyone, what can you do with them? Again, it's kind of a no-win situation, because no matter what you do, they're just not wired that way. They're just not people who care. They're jaded, perhaps, by the things that have gone on in their life, but they're not willing to do the work to make it any better. Those people will constantly try, again, to bring you down. They will play the victim. They will always say it's your fault. Really, honestly, one of the only ways to do this is to limit your exposure to these people. The self-centered people. What are we going to do with that person? Well, as I said, with those, the last one, the people who just don't give a damn, the self-centered people most often are not going to change. Over time, we grow. We go through periods of life where we change, where we evolve. Well, when you look at someone who, say, is 50 years old and still self-centered, they spend a lot of time focusing on them. Everything they do is for the betterment of them, not for society, not for the people they love. It's all about them. So again, my only suggestion with this one is to really just limit your exposure to them. Be aware of it, and by being aware of that behavior, you can then adapt and change things in your world. It's heartbreaking. It really is, because oftentimes these people, again, they may not be aware of what they're doing, but I see it as they're just not capable, and they're just not willing to do the work to not be a disappointment. If you mention it to them and it continues to happen, they're not willing to do the work. They're not willing to take that criticism to say, yeah, you're right. I am like that. You do ask me and I disappoint you. And my best advice to dealing with these individuals is to just not ask them. Just know you cannot depend on them. That when it comes down to it, when you're in a crunch, they're not going to be there for you, whether it be emotionally or physically. They are just not capable of being there. All of those people, they all leave a little something behind after you've had an interaction with them. And it's not always good. So there's things that you can do. As I said, this is just a few of those things. I'm going to further explore this topic and help you, because it's also helping me. So next week, I will be back and I will continue to explore this topic with you some more. I might do a meditation next week. I'm not quite sure where we're going to go with this, but we're gonna keep exploring this, because I really think it's important for those of us with chronic pain, for those of us with autoimmune disease, really anyone actually who just needs to kind of take a look at their life and take a look at the people in it. It's really important. So, everybody, take care. I will see you next week. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. Bye for now.